Having a heart attack doesn't usually end well. But for Rob Sinclair of Caulfield in Melbourne, what started off painfully finished up bringing him great pleasure.
Well, I was going to say fortunate in having a heart attack, but I had this terrible pain in the chest one morning a few years ago, and my partner, after doing her hair and makeup, took me into Cabrini Hospital, and at 31 minutes after arriving, they'd put in a stent, and I realised on the following Monday in the office that I had trauma insurance, and that trauma insurance was meant to pay out on a heart attack, so submitted all the paperwork and duly got paid out, and thought that money could go to a purpose which I'd really enjoy rather than something practical. So you now see it sitting in front of you.
No, it's not one of the 71. That's how many D-type Jaguars were made between 1954 and 1957. Today, a genuine D-type is worth mega millions. But in 1955, you could have bought one from the factory for less than £4,000 sterling. Rob's a little coy about how much this one cost, but believes it's as close to an original D-type as it's possible to get.
Well, the history of this car is it's a replica built in about 1986 in the UK by Brian Wingfield, and I think he made about 20. In the UK there are replicas also made by Lynx, and they're pretty much like the real thing, as is this. They're full aluminium body, very similar live rear axle, similar engine to the real thing. I bought it from the old racing car company in the UK, and the main reason was that they claimed it had a great patina to it, and it certainly does. Mechanically it wasn't really something set up for the racetrack, but I've been able to improve it over the last few years and get it to a car that's a pleasure to drive now.
The D-types of the 50s ran the 3.4 litre or 3.8 litre straight six. Rob's has got the 4.2 litre motor from the later Jags. It makes spares a lot easier to get, and Rob's convinced that it still retains the feel of the original.
That's right, and there are a lot of replicas being made around the world now. Many of them are using XJ6 front and rear ends and XJ6 components. And this certainly has the XJ6 4.2 litre engine, and it performs really well, probably very much like an original 3.4 litre XJ or D-type engine from the 1950s. Having raced them for a few years now, they're a pretty solid engine, and I think the 3.8s and 3.4s were as well. They rev higher. These probably provide more horsepower and torque, but there are a lot of them around, so I think the biggest advantage is there's no trouble finding another engine, and you really can rebuild it without too much cost.
The replica is not the only Jag he owns these days, and Rob's no stranger to the mark, having been surrounded by them from his earliest years.
I've had about 15 Jags, and I remember an old family photo in my family home years ago, and I think we had about 6 sitting around in front of the house back in the 70s, and I've since had about 15, including an S-Type. I think I graduated from the Mark II to the S-Type, and I've got brothers with Mark V, and certainly thoroughly enjoyed them over the years, XJSs included.
Rob's a keen car club man and enjoys the opportunity to go racing whenever it presents itself. His weapon of choice is not the D-type, but an XJ6 on which he's done a lot of work.
I take it out on track days as often as I can, but I'm not doing huge numbers of laps in it. It really is a car that's set up for the road more than the track. I prefer driving the XJ6 on the racetrack with the roll cage and a roof over my head. It feels a little safer. Well, I'm really enjoying the track days with the sprinters, the XJ6s, and plan to just include this in the track days as much as I can. So I'll try to get the two cars to the track and drive this for a few laps and then use it more on the road and the sprinter on the racetrack.
Sir William Lyon's pride and joy, the D-Type first saw the light of day in October 1953 and had but one goal: to continue the winning streak at Le Mans established by Jaguar with the C-Type in 1951 and 53. It was lighter, more powerful and more aerodynamic than the C-Type thanks to the innovations that former aircraft designer Malcolm Sayer brought to the Coventry carmaker. Where the C-Type had been built around a tubular steel space frame, the D-Type had a monocoque passenger tub and wind tunnel developed bodywork. In the 1954 Le Mans, its first outing in this ultimate sports car race, the D-Type could manage only second, but it went on to win in 1955, 56 and 57. For all its speed and sophistication of the time, the D-Type was still a car that could be driven to the track, race to victory and be driven home again. Driving it on the road is one of Rob's great pleasures.
A lot of the fun of it is driving it on the road and enjoying it, although there is a temptation to let it fly every now and again, which is the reason to take it to the track, because you can. Looked in the rear vision mirror the other day and there was a fellow in a four-wheel drive behind me who reversed back a few feet, which is why he took my attention. That was to get the camera angle right so he could get the picture in. It does get a lot of attention, that's for sure. Yeah.
While it looks the part, the question most asked is, as a replica, just how close is it to the iconic mid-50s racer upon which it's based? In answer, Rob points to the similarities with the original: the riveted aluminium bodywork, the monocoque passenger tub and other elements.
We've got the ride height right, the car weight is about right. It's sitting on just about 1,000 kilograms, which is about what the original D-Types were in the 50s. And the running gear is all pretty much the same sort of stuff, the Synchro 4-speed Jag box. It's very like driving a real one would be, I'm sure. This is using an E-Type front end, so the front subframe is E-Type original, so you can still get parts and there's no complication getting bits and pieces for it. But the front end and the D-Type, the originals are slightly different, but it would handle very similarly to this. The braking on this is XJ6 ventilated front and rear discs, and it's got XJ6 calipers. They're all about the same size as the original D-Type, which was 12-inch. They were massive calipers on them. I think had 6 different pads for each side, so it's very similar. The rear end's a live rear axle, just like, well, it's very similar to the original, and I've had the subframe, the rear subframe connected up to a pivot point in the same sort of way it is on the original. And I think the brakes on this and the suspension, it's not the same at the rear end. This has got springs and shockers at the back instead of a torsion bar, but it's certainly got the live rear axle, and the way it works is certainly very effective.
It might have been a heart attack that gave Rob the opportunity to buy this 50s icon, but a few years on, it still has the power to get his heart beating faster.
It is super fun to drive. It's not set up with a diff that will run to 180 miles an hour, but on the roads in Victoria there aren't many that you can drive at anything like that, so it's good fun and has plenty of get up and go.